Hey friend, it is 2 days before Christmas 2024. It's been a weird December. I've been sick for most of it, so I haven't been on camera or on audio very much in that time. But I just wanted to finish off the first season of my podcast, How to Write for a Living, by talking a little bit about Substack, which is kind of what this is all sort of about, or it's linked to in some way. So I just want to share a short video about the things I've learned about Substack so far in 2024, or which is pretty much the entire time that I've been on it for the most part, taking it seriously anyway. So in this video, I'm going to share 7 things about Substack that I've learned in 2024. I'm going to answer a few questions from some free subscribers who sent them in on a chat thread. I hope you find this useful. I hope this will help you in your Substack journey. Substack has been fantastic for me. It's totally changed the game for me as an online writer, and I'm sure it will for you too if you're planning on making it part of your ecosystem. So a bit of context, I've been on Substack since summer 2023, but I started taking it seriously in December. Up to that point, I hadn't really posted with a regular rhythm. I hadn't really thought much about the way I was posting or tried to grow my audience on the platform. Until I got to December, that's when I started taking it seriously, and Substack really began to grow at a really good rate for me. I have 3 publications on the platform: How to Write for a Living, The Solopreneur Stack, and David McElroy Fiction, which all do very different things. And I've grown that collective audience between all 3 publications to around 16,000 subscribers as of 23rd of December 2024. So I'll probably finish around that by the end of the year. So that's pretty good for taking it seriously for about a year or so. Um, the platform has changed a lot, even in the time I've been on it, in a number of ways. Mostly positive, some slightly negative, but for the most part, I think Substack is still very much moving in the right direction. So it's a great place to be if you're a writer. So let's dive into those 7 things right now, and we'll see if any of them are beneficial to you. I'm sure they will be. They were beneficial to me as I learned them and picked them up along the way, and I'm sure they will be for you as well. So point number 1, notes on Substack is still highly effective for growth if it's done right. Notes has been a massive growth lever for me. I came in to Substack at just the right time. Notes is really starting to take off at that point, and for whatever reason, it was just really, really beneficial for me in terms of growing my audience on Substack, and it still is now. The algorithm has changed a bit in October 2024, and for me personally, my growth has slowed down a bit since then. But on the flip side, I've seen a lot of smaller accounts and users with a smaller audience base talking about how their growth is actually sped up and their notes are taken off a lot more. So I think what Substack has potentially done is distributed growth a bit more evenly across the platform. I can't say that for sure because I don't know for sure. I'm not on the inside, but certainly I think smaller accounts are seeing more benefit from notes and general growth, maybe than bigger accounts are seeing right now. Um, but notes are still super effective. You can use a wide variety of notes. You can just share text, you can share pictures, audio, video. Everything can work if done right. My best advice is just to share genuine human experiences. Show up consistently for your audience. Mix personal stories and personal experiences with your professional understanding, your professional experience, the things you've learned that you can share with your audience, and engage with other people's notes as well, whether that's commenting or restacking or whatever it is you can do to be part of the community. But share regularly, try and be a real, genuine human being on the platform, which is more important than ever in the age of AI. I say this all the time, but it really is so key at this point. And if you can show that you're a real person, that you're going through real challenges and real ups and downs in your journey, people can relate to that more. So use notes effectively. Try and show up there every day if you can. If you don't have anything particular to say, maybe don't show up, but if you do have even something that you might think might be slightly useful for your audience, then definitely pop on the platform onto the app on your phone and share a note if you can. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, recommendations on Substack can also be hugely effective for building your audience. About 50% of my overall subscriber base has come from recommendations, which is a lot when you think about it. So don't sleep on recommendations. Actively work on getting more mutual recommendations for your Substack publications. Do this by approaching people who you know, who are in your size range. So if you have around 1,000 subscribers, look for people who are similarly in that sort of range as well. And make sure you're a good fit in terms of what your publications are about, because It's just not going to work if you're very different niches or very different audience bases. Um, but start with maybe say 10, try and find 10 really, really good recommendations, really good people who you know on Substack you've approached before, approach them gently in the right way. I've made resources about this kind of stuff and I'll share them in the show notes below about how to do this properly. But recommendations are hugely impactful for your growth and they work in the background. It's very passive, which is great, and it's a great feature of Substack that most other platforms don't really have. So definitely make the most of that if you can alongside notes. But number three, you still need other discoverability channels or growth levers for your Substack publication. Substack's native growth features like notes and recommendations are great, but it's a good idea to have at least one or two external discovery levers as part of that as well. But only do what you're comfortable with. So don't do what you feel like everybody else is doing. Don't feel pressured into making video if you don't really like making video, into recording podcasts if you don't really feel like you want to record podcasts. Whatever it is, do what you're comfortable with and lean more into that than anything else. If you like text-based stuff more, maybe think about platforms like Twitter. It's not as effective as it used to be, but you can still use it, or Blue Sky or that sort of thing, or even Facebook potentially. If you like video and images more, think about Instagram, think about TikTok, think about YouTube. Personally, my two main external growth levers I'm going to use more of in 2025 are my podcast and also YouTube, which also link really well into each other as well, which is great. So that's a really useful way to do it. So my podcast and YouTube, I'll use some social media as well, probably more things like Blue Sky than Twitter or Instagram. I think it's a slightly better platform. I think it's going in the right direction. Other platforms aren't. But that's my personal preference. I don't mind being on camera. I don't mind speaking. I don't mind doing audio. As long as I can keep it simple and everything connects up and I'm able to reuse the same content across different channels, and that works for me, and I think that'll work for you as well. So think about having one or two external discovery channels as well. Don't have 10 different channels because it'll totally overwhelm you in no time at all, and you won't want to do it anymore. Have one or two that you're comfortable with that you can manage easily alongside Substack's native growth channels as well, and get them all to work together. Point number four, turn on your paid tier straight away. So this is something people will give conflicting advice about. My personal advice is to turn it on right from the start. Don't wait until you have a certain number of subscribers or until you've been in Substack for a certain period of time or until you posted a certain number of posts on the publication or on your publication. Just turn it on right away, make it available. There are readers out there who will want to support you based on the value you're providing already, and they just can't do that if you don't have a paid tier turned on. And they'll ask you sometimes even, how can I support you? And then you have to go through a whole rigmarole of finding ways that they can support you directly. So just turn it on right from the start. You'll be surprised how short a period of time it takes for people to start financially supporting you on Substack, and make it available as soon as you can. Start with a smaller cost and start with just the few core benefits that you offer. You can work more into that over time once you know um, how you're going to deliver more value for your audience. But turn it on straight away, and just watch as people do genuinely want to support you financially. It's really an amazing feeling whenever you get your first paid subscriber and you start to see that increasing over time. I always value every paid subscriber I get and every free subscriber as well, and you will too once you start to see them coming in on a more regular basis. But linked to that, number five, don't rely completely on your paid subscription tier. Find other ways to generate income through your Substack publication. And paid subs will be part of your overall revenue river. This is an analogy I love to use, but it's part of your overall revenue river, but you'll need to add more income streams to flow into that river if you want Substack to be something that could genuinely pay your bills in future. So create digital products, offer coaching or that kind of support for your audience, become an affiliate for other people's products as well. Once you grow a little bit bigger, consider approaching brands and businesses about sponsorships. So offer sponsorship options where they can advertise through your publication or through your podcast as well. Combine all those multiple income streams together into an overall revenue river. It's far easier to do that than trying to grow just one over time. It's a lot of pressure on that one revenue and that one revenue stream. If you can split that out across multiple streams, it makes it far easier and puts far less pressure on you if you're trying to turn your Substack into something that can pay your bills. So don't rely completely on your pay tier. Have multiple options for bringing in revenue for Substack. Number six, the consistency of your cadence, or your cadence consistency, is more important than the number of emails or posts that you send to your audience. And what I mean by this is you can send one email a week, you can send 5 emails a week, whatever you want to do. It really doesn't matter how many you send, but the cadence matters more than anything else. So show up regularly whenever your audience expect it, as in don't post 4 posts in one week and then the next week post one or zero, and then the week after that post 7 times or whatever it is you're doing. I know it sounds like a lot, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but try and post with a regular rhythm and a regular cadence. That's more important than the number of posts that you share overall. And focus on rhythm and consistency. Find out what works best for you and try and stick to that as best you can. Show up for your audience as if you are their favorite television show that's coming out once a week or a couple times a week or whatever way that works. They will appreciate that a lot more than being bombarded with tons of emails one week and then getting like nothing the next week and then loads the week after that. So focus on your cadence, get into regular rhythm, and be consistent in the way that you post. And finally, number 7, find ways to connect with your audience on a daily basis if you can. That doesn't mean you have to email every single day. It doesn't mean you have to do the same thing every single day, but find ways to show up and appear in front of your audience on a daily basis if you possibly can. You can email every single day. Some people do that. They send out daily emails, and that's a really good way of building a really close connection with your audience. But if you can't do that, if that's not something that is feasible for you as a creator on Substack, find other ways to show up on a daily basis. So post a note one day or every day if you can. Start a new chat thread on a regular basis, maybe 2 or 3 times a week for your audience, and maybe do a live video once a week if you can. Just keep yourself at the forefront of your audience's thinking, and that will mean they'll be far more likely to want to support you in future whenever the time comes. Whenever you do put out a call to action, saying, "Can you support me and my publication?" Whether that's once a month or a couple of times a month or whatever it is, whatever way you want to do that, they'll be more likely to want to engage with that and action themselves on that. If you're showing up regularly and they're used to seeing you and they're used to seeing your face, hearing your voice, and reading your voice through what you write. But try and find ways of showing up on a daily basis if you possibly can, and make it simple and easy and sustainable for yourself as well. So those are 7 things I've learned about Substack in 2024. I've learned more than that, but those are kind of the 7 key things I've learned. It's changed a lot as a platform, even in that time, mostly positive, very little negative. But there's never been more opportunity than ever before on Substack and other online writing platforms. Find out what works best for you. Trim back the things that you think aren't working. Don't keep doing them if they're not working. Just don't be afraid to cut them out. If something is working, lean into that and do a lot more of it, and develop it more and make it part of your ecosystem as a writer. Learn from other people, but don't compare yourself to them. Keep one eye on them, but don't constantly watch what they're doing and try and do the same thing. Do what works best for you and focus more on that than anything else. And I think that will really benefit you as a creator, as a writer on Substack, and it'll benefit your publication and be to your audience's benefit as well. So there's just 7 things that I think I've learned about Substack, and I hope that is a benefit to you and you find this useful. And now, something that I had promised my subscribers I was going to do was try and answer a few questions as part of this podcast, just about Substack in general, just some basic stuff. So I'm literally just going to read these off my screen right now and from the chat thread, and I'll do my best to answer them with no prior preparation, just my genuine thoughts, unfiltered for each question, and I'll see what I come up with. So I hope this is useful as well. Again, this is not prepared. This is just my unfiltered thoughts in the moment. So Joe was asked, David, I'm a writer using podcasts as my platform, and I've this year started using Substack to publish my newsletter, which is mainly the podcast episode script and interview transcript with show updates added to it. It's been great for engagement with my existing email contacts, but how might I gain traction more from this platform? Thanks in advance. Joe, I think the best way to gain more traction for that is just to spread your podcast and your Substack publication far and wide, get more eyes on it and more visibility, and share it to notes as much as you can, share snippets of the podcast and of your Substack publication and post as well onto notes on the social media. Think about putting it onto YouTube. You can connect YouTube to Substack directly, or you can just take snippets from your podcast episodes and put them onto there. But if you want to get more traction, just get more eyes on it as much as you can. Try and publish in a regular rhythm. Try and share regularly, and get that out there as much as possible. It's great what you're doing. I think that I personally think that podcasts combined with Substack are a brilliant way to create content, to create content that's very shareable across multiple platforms. So just try and get that in front of as many people as you possibly can on a regular basis. I think that's the best way to get more traction for those things. Uh, Perna has said, I'm new to Substack. I don't have much idea about it, but within the short period of just 1 month, I found it as one of the best sharing platforms for writers. I agree. I don't claim I'm a writer, but I'm trying to share folk stories I listened to during my childhood. They have not been documented. That's really, really interesting. And again, similar to the previous answer that I gave, um, I think it's just about sharing regularly. So if you have stories to share, put them onto notes, put snippets of them onto notes, even take images that relate to those folk stories if you can find them, and share that with maybe like a quote from your post. Just try and get them in front of an audience as much as you possibly can. Use notes. Consider using external platforms like social media and YouTube as well, which I think would work quite well for that if you can use that. And even podcasts would work well for that too. I think sharing those stories directly in an audio version, or just an audio version of your individual Substack post to work quite well too. So think about sharing that as much as you can, get more eyes on it, get more ears on it. But a really interesting way to go about it with the folk stories people haven't documented before, and I think Substack's a great platform for that, and you'll definitely find an audience there. Alberto, my fellow Oasis fan, has said, "Do you think you can grow on Substack without external traffic and without notes? For example, just by commenting, exchanging recommendations, and publishing guest posts?" Yeah, I think you definitely can grow on it without those things. I just think you'll grow more if you use them as well. If you can fit that into your ecosystem, commenting, exchanging recommendations, and publishing guest posts are definitely great ways to get more visibility on the platform. Guest posts are brilliant for that sort of thing in particular. And I think showing up on notes on a regular basis and leaving comments and restacking, and I've talked about building recommendations as well. Those all work so effectively, and I think if you can combine all that together, that's great. I just think try and do a bit of everything in moderation and make it sustainable for you. Do what you enjoy doing most, and do more of that, and don't worry too much about things that you don't enjoy as much. Hope that's useful, Alberto. Maybe a bit of a rambling answer, but yeah, I think you can grow without notes and external traffic, but I think if you can find options for those that work for you, then try and use them as much as you can. Nathan said, "This is great. I'd like to know how you feel Substack as a social platform vis-a-vis X or Threads or Blue Sky or even Facebook." So I think what you're asking there, Nathan, is how do I feel about it as a social platform compared to the other social media platforms that are out there? Personally, I think Substack is probably the best right now, just in terms of lack of suppression of links and posts, and the ability to format within your posts as well. I mean, you have to pay for that sort of thing on other platforms, or it just simply doesn't exist. So different options for what you can do there. I think personally Substack is the best platform right now for that kind of stuff. I genuinely think it has the most options available. It's just the most effective platform right now. Other platforms are good too. I do think that Blue Sky could be a really good option in the future. I'm not sure about Threads. I don't think X is going the right direction. Facebook is still there. It has a certain demographic, and you can use that too. But for me, Substack, in terms of social platforms, is definitely the best right now. And as long as they can keep developing it, it will continue to be that way. And I think that's where, if you're going to allocate time for social media, that's where you should allocate most of your time, is on Substack, and then split the rest up amongst the others and find out which one works best for you. Mary Lee said, "Don't forget to add your thoughts for fiction writers." I have lots of thoughts for fiction writers, Mary Lee, and I'll share more about that in future as well. I think Substack is a brilliant platform for fiction. I think there are some writers on here who are really making the most of it. I'm going to try and do more with it myself in 2025. And I think it just works in the same way. I think it's the same kind of promotion. I think you have to think about your fiction posts in the same way you think about non-fiction posts, the same way you think about your guidance posts as well in terms of how you promote them. I think just sharing a portion of it and maybe paywall and the rest is a really good way of trying to get more paid subscribers in, and maybe promoting it on social media, and then pushing people towards Substack to become paid subscribers. It's obviously worked really well for other people too. And I do think the Substack is going to add more features for fiction in the future. I definitely think there's going to be a point where people can publish their books on the Substack and sell directly through Substack, sell their books there without the need for Amazon and things like that. Who knows? Maybe that's not accurate. I don't know, but I do think that in terms of fiction right now, Substack is, again, it's just the best platform for this kind of stuff as well. And if you're posting fiction, you're publishing fiction on Substack, then definitely keep it up and keep finding ways to promote it as much as you possibly can and learn from others about how they do it. Annika has said, "I'd love to hear about things you tried that didn't pan out so well. What have you learned from it?" Um, I think I'll actually do a post specifically about this, Annika, in future, whether it's a podcast episode or a video or an actual post on my Substack publication about the things that didn't work. Because there's a lot of things I've done that haven't really worked overly well that I've tried and I've cut out of my system. Um, but yeah, I think everything is just a process of trial and error, of just trying stuff for a bit, and just if it doesn't really take, then that's okay. I think I've tried. Uh, One thing I've tried is moving things off Substack, trying to move people away from Substack into somewhere else. But I do just think overall everything is here that we need in terms of community, in terms of promotion, social media like things. And I don't really think there's any need to move people off the platform as much as I maybe thought there was in the past. So definitely, yeah, it's all trial and error. It's all a matter of just testing things out and seeing what works. But as I said, I think I will share a more detailed post of that. I'll give it some more thought, and see if I can come up with some really just key things that people can learn from in terms of my mistakes, which are many. But yeah. Avril asked for a rundown of Substack, the basics, in terms of notes and posting and all that sort of stuff. Again, Avril, I'm gonna definitely tackle this more directly. I'm planning to host a webinar and workshop in January after Christmas is over, about this kind of stuff. I think I mentioned this before, but I'm gonna focus just on the basics, and if that is something you really do need help with, then hopefully that webinar workshop will be useful. I'm gonna have this new approach in January, let you in on this now, where I will have like a dual format kind of system where I'm gonna do like a free webinar about a certain topic or topics, and then there'll be a workshop after that. There'll be a break in between, then a workshop, and the workshop is going to be for paid subscribers to kind of dig deeper into what we talked about in the webinar. That's going to be the way I'm going to do things. I think from now on, I'm going to test it. It could be one of those failure things that happens sometimes, but there will be an opportunity in January to talk about the basics in Substack. So definitely keep an eye out for that, and I will hopefully tackle things properly for you and answer some questions. And the last one is from Davis, who'd love to hear my thoughts on how to effectively grow an audience on Substack without feeling spammy, balancing personal storytelling with providing value to readers, any surprising lessons I've learned about engagement and community building on the platform. Um, yeah, Davis. Well, one thing I would say is that I have answered some of these things through the member resource hub. So if you are a paid subscriber, you want to become a paid subscriber, there are videos and resources there that kind of directly answer those kind of questions. I'm not trying to just push you towards becoming a paid subscriber, but that is just genuinely where most of those things exist, that can answer them more efficiently and effectively, I suppose. But uh, growing your audience Substack without feeling spammy, I think it is just about sharing personal stories, as you said, and balancing personal storytelling with providing value. That is, you've actually answered your first point with your second one there. I think if you can balance personal storytelling, not just about things you've done in your personal life, but about things you've tried and failed at, as we've mentioned already in some of these other answers, um, and sharing about those kind of things, your triumphs and your failures, and what you learned from that. And that is the best way to provide value for your audience, because you can say, "This is what I tried, and it didn't work. This is what I tried that did work, and here's how you can replicate it yourself." That's a really great way to teach people how to do things, and that will lead to growth without feeling spammy if you can provide value like that, and then take that value and distribute it across notes and social media, through recommendations, by emailing with a regular cadence, all that sort of stuff. That's a really good way to grow, in a gentle, appropriate way with your audience. And surprising lessons I've learned about engagement and community building on the platform. Really just I find that chat threads are really, really good for getting subscribers to engage with each other, as well as with you, horizontally as well as vertically, as I like to say. And using notes in the same sort of way. So jumping into comments and engaging, going to people's posts and going to the comments there and engage not just with the author of the post, but with other readers as well. It's a great way to build community, make friends, and to create those kind of connections that can really grow your publication and your audience, and just your enjoyment on the platform as well, making the platform fun, showing up to a community of people who are like-minded and are trying to do the same kind of things that you're doing. I think that's been surprising about Substack, is how effective that is and how much it can be enjoyable and fun compared to other platforms where that really isn't the case, where things are toxic and it's dog eat dog, and Substack never really feels like that. So I think if you can balance personal storytelling and weave that into a learning opportunity for your audience, don't just say, this is a funny thing happened to me, isn't this funny? But say, this is something that I tried on a professional sense, that I personally tried and it didn't work, or did work, and here's what you can learn from it. So I hope that answers some of those questions. Sorry that, again, I maybe rambled there a little bit. But yes, I think that's all the questions kind of answered that people had provided. But I hope you found this useful. I'm about to run out of time on the thing I'm recording this on right now. I'm also going to experiment with other platforms for recording podcasts and videos in 2025. But those are the things I've learned about Substack in 2024. I've answered some questions there as well. I hope this has been useful. This is the final episode of season 1 of my podcast, and I'll share it onto YouTube as well, so you can watch it there. Please leave some comments if you want to. If you want to ask more questions on Substack or YouTube, that's fine. I will come back with season 2 in the new year. We'll have some more guests coming along, which would be great. I'm going to try and record more videos where it's just me as well, talking to you like this, and hopefully you'll find that useful. But thanks so much for listening to the podcast in season 1. It's been so much fun making it. Don't forget to check out my podcast course if you're interested in starting a podcast yourself. But thanks for listening. Have a good Christmas, and I will see you again in 2025.